for further clarification on what the new Nigerian tax regime entails. I sat down for a very detailed conversation with Dr. Zacchaeus Adedeji, an accountant who currently serves as the executive chairman of the Nigeria Revenue Service. Let's take a look and we'll be right back. Good to see you, Dr. Adedeji. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, good to have you granting us an interview on Arise News, Dr. Zach Adedeji, the chairman of the Nigerian Revenue Service. We'd like to wish you a very happy new year, and thank you for agreeing to talk about tax administration and other related issues with us on Arise News. Now, very quickly, in the highlights in this document, the Nigeria Tax Reform Acts, in the prefatory section, we're told that, look, this is the whole idea of the reform and the Tax Reform Acts, 4 of them, is to build trust among the Nigerian people, and that the tax reform is for the benefit of all Nigerians and all concerned. But there have been controversies about the credibility, the legitimacy, the transparency, the accountability of the process leading to this official gazette that I just showed. How concerned are you about those controversies?
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me. And I wish all our taxpayers, and by extension Nigeria, compliment of season. Just to start from beginning, tax reform is one of the promises made by Mr. President from his inaugural speech, because we've all seen from beginning that the fragmented tax system we have cannot sustain the kind of development that Mr. President envisioned. And that is why, from beginning, he made its point of duty that we need to start early to reform the tax system, which is the real foundation for any sustainable economy in the world. And that is what Mr. President has done. Remember that he set up the committee headed by Taiwo Yedele, spent 1 year for consultation with various groups, which I know you are also part of it in those periods, and gather the data and normal process, put a plan together after receiving the blessing of Mr. President, sent to the National Assembly, and all the process of lawmaking were followed, which then was not in secret. Public hearings, regional engagement, and stuff. And all those were done, which ended in June, where Mr. President assented to the bill as presented by National Assembly and get gazetted and given to us. Now, when you talk about controversy and everything, like happened with all change in the world, because you have certain people that prefer the status quo, you have some people that they just don't want you to succeed. So all those things are expected, and there should not be anything that should distract us from the real focus of the reform. So if you ask me, we don't have any controversy whatsoever, because the Nigeria Constitution stipulated what each arm of government should do, and then in this instance, I think that has been properly done. So as of today, we have the gazetted law as passed by National Assembly, which is sole duty of us as revenue administrator, just to implement the law as given to us by National Assembly. So we don't have any issue, and we are not distracted by those controversies. It is good concern, as you know, that is very difficult for people to part away with their income, which unfortunately that is part the tax belong. But in one summary, the whole essence of reform is to taxing right, not taxing more. We just want to tax right, fairness, transparency, and then consolidated the whole system in order to simplify and unify the process of revenue administration.
Okay, there will be many Nigerians out there who agree with you about the necessity of reform. But the key argument is that people are saying that the process itself is compromised. Now, a certain Honorable Abdul Samad Dasuki PDP Sokoto, stood on the floor of the House of Reps and said, as a matter of privilege, he had looked at what was officially gazetted and what was passed by the House, particularly, and that there were discrepancies, alterations, deletions that will give more powers to the Nigeria Revenue Service, that will bypass the authority of the courts, that would violate even specific sections of the Constitution. For example, in order not to take too much time, take, for example, Section 23 of the Nigeria Revenue Service Act, now dealing with reporting obligations. Now, the allegation by those who have looked at the subject is that that was altered. Now, similarly, Section 30, subclause 1. Similarly, Section 60, sub 1, and also Section 60, sub 4 to 6. All of these dealing with court order, legislative oversight, and also the powers of the Nigeria Revenue Service, and also particularly whether or not if a taxable person making an appeal, can part with 20% of the revenue in question. I think that's under Section 39. And then in the gazetted version, we're told may or may not. And, people are saying, to the extent that the executive will seem to have modified the harmonized bill by the National Assembly, then it means that that law, those laws are questionable.
No, like I said earlier, I don't want you to delve into those rumors.
Rumors?
Yes.
And no, these are the Nigerian people talking.
Excuse me, Nigerian people. And that is the point I'm making. That we need, if we want to run a nation, we need to stick by the rule and make sure that we have verified facts on all these form of allegation. I just explained to you, the process of lawmaking is very clear. When the president assented to any bill, goes back to the clerk, get it gazetted, and give it to us. For example, all this comparison that you are mentioning now, honestly, I don't know where you find it, because nobody except National Assembly has right to the vote book. And they are the one to give us the gazetted, which if you read paper 3 days ago, they've released the gazetted law as passed, which is the only thing we have. So when you talk about the executive having a hand and doing all these things, it has no place in the law. And when it has no place in the law, it's not a moral. And if you follow the National Assembly institutional resolution of that matter, you will see that they've taken to the part of law. They release statement that, okay, we know the law will pass, and that has been gazetted. And we've not seen any dissent for it, most especially from us, because our duty is only to implement law as passed by National Assembly. If you follow Mr. President's speech, he repeated the same thing by saying that we will follow due process in the implementation of law. And to expand that further, of what purpose do we want to go and alter the law? To do what? Don't forget, the relationship between tax administrator and that of the taxpayer is like vineyard and the vineyard keeper. Because the more prosperous the taxpayer are, the better it is for us. So we are in quote not law enforcement agents that we just want to chain our people down. No. And that is the real essence of this reform, is to stimulate economic growth. Because it is when economy prospers that revenue administration has work to do. Like I've always explained, and quoting Mr. President, that I'm not going to tax poverty, I want to tax prosperity. I'm not going to tax seed, I want to tax the fruit. So I'm not going to just go and face investments, I only want to tax return. So the only duty that we have, which Mr. President is leading, is removing all the hurdles in the face or on the way of businesses. Remove that one so that business can do well, which this tax reform actually form part of. Okay,
I'll get to some of those details, but part of the controversy is that many people are saying they've not even seen the harmonized bill. When Representative Dasuki was talking, he was referring to the House version, and most of the commentators are talking about the House version. But the issue is, where is the harmonized copy of the bills.
Okay.
And Biala, I think that's his name, Director of Information of the National Assembly. He said, well, you know, a few people were privy to it. Were you one of those persons who saw one of the few people who saw the harmonized copy of the bills?
And that is the point I'm making. I don't even need to see the harmonized bill. I don't need to see any of those things. The only thing I need to see is the gazetted bill, which they've given to me. You know, all these processes are internal process of National Assembly, which is purely, there is separation of power. So there is no way, we don't have any duty, any role to play. Even when they discover anything, they use their own institution to correct whatever they think it is not right. And that is why I'm saying that I don't want to focus on that. Our role is to implement the law as passed by National Assembly, and that is what we are ready to do. Thank God, January 1st has come. The law has commenced, as Mr. President and everybody has seen it, and the operational guidelines, everything is ready. The next thing I'm looking forward is to Nigeria to start seeing the benefits.
Okay, I'll get to the operational guidelines, but before I do so, there's still another subsisting matter, which is the Memorandum of Understanding that you signed. I think you oversaw that with the French government. Something about digital taxation, modernization, and the international cooperation, transfer pricing. And Nigerians are saying, why are we involving France in our operations? Why is it that, since we say we have new laws, that Nigeria should develop its own capacity?
Thank you very much. And I'm so happy, and we don't take it for granted, the level of awareness that Nigeria has shown now in the development of our country. Memorandum of Understanding is just operational items, operational activities that we do. Not only with France, we have with UK, we have with South Africa, which is normal. It is part of the old law and even the new law that I need to facilitate the interaction between us and global body for tax administration, because the world now is a global village. So, and you've set a correct example. When you talk about international tax and international transfer pricing, because what is your cost here is another one revenue. So the kind of agreement and relationship we have is what we have both within the region and even in continent. So it's like you say, no, Nigeria is part of UN now. So why is Nigeria part of UN? Because Nigeria is a sovereign country. We are not living in isolation. So, and we are not open any of our data system to any of these external bodies. For you, even here in Nigeria, except you have court order, you can't take another person's data, tax data, because it's like medical report. There's confidentiality. Talk less of exposing that to international organization. So there is nothing to fear. It is normal operational item that we do not only with France, or with all other global revenue administration.
Okay, still talking about international understanding. Now, one of the areas of controversy is Section 39 sub 3 of the Nigerian Tax Administration Act, which talks about computation. Now, in the version that the House is referring to, they say computation should be in the currency of the transaction. But what we have in the official gazette is computation in US dollars.
No.
39.3. I can look at it here.
No. If you look at it, you will see, and that is the, let me just put more of education into it. And I repeated this, tax is a technical subject. Tax require experts, and no section is reading in isolation. Now, when they say computation, which is done anywhere in the world, should be in the currency of transaction. What that means is that if your transaction is in dollar, the tax that you are going to pay will be computed based on that currency. If the transaction is in CD, it should be in that CD. But in payment, one, if you have dollar to pay, good. If you don't have dollar to pay, the law allows you to pay at the current exchange rate. And that is what you see in one of the reform of Mr. President, the unification of rates. If it has not been unified, that will have been a problem. Because if you don't have that in the provision, which I know is in the same thing that is being passed, the one I have, like I told you from National Assembly, is that the transaction will be done in the currency. The computation will be done in the currency of transaction. But when you want to pay, in case you don't have the dollar, Nigerian currency is naira. You just use the current exchange rate. So these are technical things that has nothing to do with alteration. And that is another point I'm making, that those people that are even giving alteration and everything, the first thing they should ask is that what is the benefit? So on what basis will you say, go and pay in dollar? Let me tell you implication of paying in dollar. It put pressure on foreign exchange because Nigeria spend in naira. So if you have computation and you have to look for dollar to go and pay, and also when Nigeria want to spend again, we have to go back to that place, we are distorting the market, which is one of the reasons, one of the things this reform has done for us.
Okay, let's move quickly to implementation. Yeah, the process started on January 1, as the president declared, and as you and Mr. Adedeji have both insisted. And so Nigerians more or less are faced with a fait accompli. But the same Nigerians are complaining that it looks like the government is taxing the poor to benefit the rich, despite the fact that there is that threshold on personal income tax for people earning about 800,000 naira per annum, which comes to about 66,667 per month. And beyond that, the graduated, taxation still punishes the poor. What do you say to that?
No, okay, let me just correct an impression. When you say the law started in January 1st, as declared by President, that is not totally correct.
Okay, June 26.
So, June 26, as legislated by National Assembly. Mr. President has no hand in saying this is the day the law will start. The National Assembly passed the law. Law was assented to on 26th of June. From that day, 2 of those laws become operational. The other 2 were given 6 months because the tax policy says that when you are changing rate, you must give them 3 months for the company to adjust to that your rate. That is Nigeria tax policy that we follow. And we're now saying that instead of just saying 3 months, give them 6 months because this is big for them to adjust. All law started in June when Mr. President has signed. So the only thing that is taking effect 2 days ago is the rate, because we need to give them 6 months for company to adjust their system and for us also to get ready. So the law has already started since June when Mr. President assented to the law as presented by National Assembly. So Mr. President just emphasized and given his backing that this reform is one in generation chance that we have to actually set a fiscal standard that will sustain the kind of prosperity that country needs. Now, if you listen to Taiwo, you listen to everybody, including me, myself, during the public hearing, one of our focus in doing this bill is to give relief to the poor, to make sure that those people at the lower realm feel little impact. And that is what I said, that we are taxing right, we are not taxing more. Because if you look at all the exemptions, you will discover that more than 95% of the poor are totally exempted. Imagine that we remove VAT on all food items. The percentage of people that actually go for their disposable income, like 90% of disposable income for poor, is for food. We remove VAT totally from those ones. The same thing on transportation, which is also in the poor. So if you look at the total and the net benefit, the poor are the most beneficiary of this tax reform.
We're talking about the poor. The issue about bank charges, VAT charges on transfers. I mean, a few days ago, well, today is January what now? Now, in the last few days, people have been complaining that now VAT is taken from bank transfers. People who used to pay 15 naira per transaction, they now, if they do 2-3 transactions, they have more money going out of their accounts. Then there's the issue of bank narration. Mr. Adedeji was saying, well, bank narration Nobody is going to look at your data. It's not the tax authority, revenue service that is prying into your accounts. But people say, look, too much money is now being taken from their transactions. Does it not occur to you that you could inadvertently drive people away from the banking system? Why should I transfer money to anybody if they are going to take more money from me?
And that is what I'm saying. And thank you that you have this data. I want you to go and check and confirm. If anything, actually effective January 1, it has reduced. Before, when you do transfer, both you that receive and the person that pays, they deduct. Today, it is only the payer that do stamp duty, which is law. So it has nothing to do with us. That's number one. Number two is that most of this personal income tax, when people talk about individual, this is just in the profit of the state internal generated revenue agency. For federal government, for federal inland revenue, we collect corporate taxes. So when a lot of complaint that people actually talked about is what happened at the state level, which is part of the reform that we've done now. You will see that most states started domesticating the Nigeria Tax Act just to remove all those problems that people talked about. Now, when you talk about narration and all these things, I just want to tell you this. Don't forget, I told you from the beginning, that our interest is to make people to prosper, because it is in their prosperity that we will have our own revenue. Nobody will continue to look for narration or narrative. Those people you see promoting all these rumors, all these misinformation, are those people that are avoiding taxes, that there is no way out for, based on the digitalization that we brought on board, like e-invoicing. So if you transfer money to your brother, you transfer money to, this is just your normal transfer. Nobody, no tax authority, whether state or federal, will go and pray into your bank account to say, okay, who transferred what or who did what. No, there is nothing like that. It wasn't in the old law, and the same thing it can be in the new law. So narration or whatever, it's just misinformation. There is nothing about that in the tax law.
Okay, I have reporting thresholds. Yes. Now, if as an individual you put 25 million in the banks, yes, the bank is obliged to report to the tax authorities. If you are a company, you have up to 100 million in terms of your profit or returns within 3 months, the bank is obliged to report. Now, people are complaining about that. Can't they just prosper without the taxman looking into every kobo and penny?
No, we don't even need to say that. And I want to say that that wasn't in the law. This has already been. And I want to tell you, I don't want to say it's only tax authority. The use of data nowadays has gone far, far beyond what people think it is all about. And it has nothing to do with tax reform. It is just the advanced level that we are now, at the form of data management and the way we use data. So the reporting threshold and everything, these are already been there, and it has nothing. I repeat, it has nothing. Don't forget, the law is clear. The law is public. We can only tax profit. We can only tax consumption, which is VAT, which is normal. We can only tax your return, not your investment. And that is what one of the provision, even for the company. Before, you used to have minimum tax rate applied to your turnover, which means that even when you make loss, you will still have to pay tax based on your turnover. But that is taxing the investment, because that is not return. Because if you make loss and we are collecting taxes from you, we are collecting your capital, which is not the intent of Mr. President. And that is why you see that change. That minimum tax can only be on profit. It can never be on turnover. These are the landmark changes. And that is why I'm saying that I'm looking forward for people to come back to us and see the benefit of this laudable reform that Mr. President is leading. Okay,
Dr. Adedeji, now for the banks, yes, the customers need mandatory NIN as individuals. I know that it's a matter of law, that citizens must have NIN. Companies must have TIN, tax identification number, right? And then it is also said in the new law that at the end of the year, you have to file for tax, and you have to declare your income. If you do not do so, the penalty is 100,000 naira, and then if you still do not do so, it's 50,000 naira every additional month. This is what the people are protesting about.
Tell me, what are they protesting about in that?
The bureaucracy of filling forms.
No, what does that
money
mean?
being
No,
taken.
we need to select which country we want to run. All of us travel abroad, travel everywhere. We say this is good, this is nice. We are talking about terrorism financing. We are talking about all those things. We love what we see. But when it is time for us to get it done, people try to resist. Tell me, sir, what is bad in once in a year filing as a citizen of Nigeria that this is what I earn, this is what I've paid, have I overpaid the government, should government pay me back, or have I underpaid? Everybody does it in civilized environment. And we are now saying that, okay, let's bring ourselves into that. And I don't think it's a burdensome something. Like you said, NIN is law that almost have it. And we've said that if you have NIN, it is the same thing that we use as your tax ID if you are individual. And then company, there is no company that will not have tax identification. So doing filing, people should not complain. This is their civic responsibility. And we are there, help desk, to help. Like I said, we are not law enforcement agents. They are our partner. We live because they are there. So we are not there to make life difficult for them. Our own is to make life easier. And that is what you've seen in the operational item. Just imagine, before now you have 62 books to look into to know whether you are complying. Today you have only one book, consolidated. Before you have to go to many places. I tell you, the people in oil and gas, they will go to UPRC, come to us, go to... Today is now consolidated under Nigeria Revenue Service. That the same base, which is your oil production, you use it for your VAT, you use it for your royalty, you use it for taxes, just one place. Compared to you have to go. The same thing in audit. So the process, and I mean it, that I can't wait for people to start seeing the benefit of this laudable reform that Mr. President is leading.
Okay, well, which takes me to the next set of points. From FIRS to NRS, Nigerian Revenue Service, which is the new name of the FIRS now. What is significant about this transformation?
No, and that is what
because I see you have made cups, you have created a flag.
No, this is
I'm sure you will have changed your business card too.
No, this is the level, just to tell you that we have 6 months to prepare for this day. So all these things and the same thing that happened in the system. But there is something significant that I want to say. Nigeria Revenue Service is not branding. It is total system upgrade. It's total institutional upgrade. It is moving from fragmented revenue administration to modern, digitalized, centralized, through intelligence and collection system. The mandate is more than just tax collection. It's now revenue intelligence management. And that is what you see. So it is not focused on just name or signpost, no. And before, you see, federal inland revenue, meaning that we collect money for federal, and we collect money internally alone, which is totally out of the world, because we are responsible for all revenue accruable to government, whether internal or external. The same thing, if you look at VAT, we collect, 90% of VAT goes back to state. So why do we want to answer the name federal? So Nigeria Revenue Service is more than just branding. It is total institutional upgrade in order to meet the requirement for any prosperous nation. Okay,
one more clarification that I need. Now, many Nigerians pay as you earn.
Yes.
Now, that pay as you earn, in addition to it, the banks will take VAT, and then there will be some other taxes that they will pay. They have to fill forms, they have to look for documentation. Now, and yet the whole idea, part of the objectives, is to address multiplicity of taxes. Yes. So if a man is already on the pay as you earn basis, why should we pay other taxes?
Okay, let me explain, and I thank you for the question. There are two broad-based taxes. You have transactional taxes and you have income taxes. Transactional taxes is irrespective of what you earn. When you get involved in transaction, you pay that type of taxes. Transactional taxes is VAT. So whether you are a banker, you are MD, you are entrepreneur, you are anything, if you go buy those products that are not exempted, you will pay VAT on it. Now, income taxes is whether you are a company or you are individual. So if you are individual, when you talk about pay as you earn, you concentrate on income because you are a salary earner or they give you money and you pay based on that income. But that will not preclude you from paying your transactional taxes, which is irrespective of who you are. Another one that people used to mix up is withholding tax. Withholding tax is not type of taxes. It's not VAT, it's not another tax. Withholding tax is called prepaid tax. Because when you get involved in certain transactions that except the payer discloses, there is no way we will know. That is why you withhold tax and they give you receipts. That when you want to do your filing at the end of the year, let's say they've withheld 20,000 from you. And your total tax at the end of the year is now 100,000 based on your filing. You deduct the withholding tax you've paid, and then you only pay balance. So it's not type of taxes. So when people say withholding tax, no, it's because you've done a transaction that resulted in profit, and except the payer deducts that, there is no way system will know. For example, you have fixed deposits in the bank. Let's say 1 million. At the end of the month, they pay you 1,000. There is no way we will know, except the bank that pays as withheld 10% or whatever, which is withholding. But you have right to collect receipts from whatsoever that be withheld from you, so that when you do your total filing at the end of the year or quarterly, you can less withholding tax you've paid. So it's not another additional taxes or whatever. It's just tax that you've paid in advance based on the income that you've generated. So when you see that, despite the fact that it's pay as you earn, as long as you get involved in those transactional items, you get to pay those transactional taxes.
At the end of the day, all of us will run away from the banks.
No, you don't need bank. It's not a bank thing. Bank has nothing. And I try to explain it to people. Tax law, tax reform has nothing to do with what is going on in the bank. Because it's not tax law, they are charging you COT. Don't forget that they get paid there. So it is from your transaction they have the money that they get paid. It has nothing to do, and that's what I've explained. There is nothing in tax law that mandated bank to do any additional charges or any additional charges. This is the same thing I clarified with aviation. When the aviation person raised first alarm last time, and I asked him the question, have we introduced tax act before you increase the price more than double from beginning of the year to the end of the year? Does that tax law has anything to do with that?
Okay, Dr. Adedeji, another big question. This revenue that will now come to the Nigeria Revenue Service, people are asking, what is the Nigerian government doing with additional revenue? This is the old point about trust that people are talking about.
Okay.
They're saying, okay, we will invariably contribute more money for government to run properly, but we don't trust government.
But the trust is built along the time. And if you look at Mr. President, what we've promised when Mr. President assumed office, today we just passed December. Did you see any fuel, queue for the fuel? Did you see any scarcity? This is result of reform. So when people ask, what do we use the money for? Do people actually take into consideration the expenditure of government to maintain peace and order? For us, at the Revenue Administration, our is to assess, to collect, and to account for that money. National Assembly appropriates, and we execute whatever government wants to do. But anywhere in the world, you have your expenditure, you have your revenue. So I understand, because of reform gap, that people say, they want to start saying. But if you look at where we are coming from before this time, on exchange rate instability, the fuel scarcity, the subsidy, all those things that we promised then, that when Nigeria supports us and we're able to remove and do doing all those things, the result is here. If you go to state now, go and see how much do state collect before, how much are they collecting now. So when you are talking about the impact, don't forget we are less than 3 years, and it takes time for this thing to trickle down. And I'm very sure this year, 2026, people will feel the impact of government.
Okay. This reform has been put in place just about a few months or a year, if you like, to the political transition to 2027 general elections. People are saying that how can we be sure of the independence of Nigeria Revenue Service, lack of political interference, and the use of all these small prints to deal with the opposition? Because, under the electoral laws, you must have paid your tax, you must do, and that maybe the APC government is looking for a way to use tax returns and tax obligations to marginalize the opposition.
Honestly, when you ask that question, I don't know that is where you will go. I think the question you will ask is that we need to commend the courage of Mr. President, that despite the fact that there is election coming, is courageous enough to continue on this path of statesmanship, not of that of politician. Because if you know, as a politician, this is not the time, but he believes that the future of Nigeria is far, far beyond political affiliation. It's far beyond political. So I read a lot of half-baked, lack of depth analysis of some politicians, most especially as far as this is concerned. But when you read through, you will see that is either they've not read the tax law or someone wrote it for them and they put it under their name, because the kind of thing I expect from them, most especially when you have a reform that exempted almost anything that has to do with 95% of poor people, and someone is still talking that, oh, this is not the right policy. So you begin to wonder whether they've not read it or someone put it for them and they just put it under their name. So when you ask about the question about political, whatever, no, the Nigeria Revenue Service, as the name calls it, Nigeria, not Political Revenue Service. So there is no way that we will do that. We are patriotic civil servants working for the progress and prosperity of Nigeria. So if anything, we should commend the courage of Mr. President to, despite the fact what the opposition or people may think, but he believes in the right thing, not about this next election, but about next generation.
Okay, Dr. Adedeji. Now, there is a transition. FIRS is becoming Nigeria Revenue Service. Is there a transition framework in place? And particularly in terms of greater focus on technology, and also in terms of the capacity, because human beings are the ones going to work in Nigeria Revenue Service. Have you made any framework, worked on any framework for human capacity?
Thank you very much. One of the things I thank God for every day is I'm blessed with wonderful staff that God has given me in Federal Land Revenue and now Nigeria Revenue Service. They are patriotic, capable Nigeria. And you remember... You
are sure they won't become consultants?
No, there is no place
taxpayers?
No, there won't be any, because that is why we write the tax law in simplified language. That when people read it, it's straightforward, unlike what we've done before. This is the most significant fiscal document in the last 50 years of this country. Nobody, no administration has done the kind of thing we've done. If I may tell you, the Stamp Duty Act we are using before this was promulgated in 1939. The Stamp Duty, 1939, when there was no internet, none of all these things. So they become inadequate for what we've done. So for us, we are prepared, we are ready, and that is why when I told you that the law started 6 months ago, all what we're doing, and you can see the effect of it, is that it's not in 2 days they will have produced the COP. So this is just symbolic about what we are ready to do. And for your information, operation is operation. The fact that we change, we still collect royalty, collect taxes, collect all those things. So we've done system integration, and you've put it rightly, that what we've brought majorly is that most of those manual activities that encourages human intervention has been removed totally. A dedicated department is now for technology, because we know the future actually belongs to those data-driven organizations. So we are ready. I have confident trust of my people, and I know that they have what it takes to take Nigeria to the next level in revenue administration.
When you talk about technology, data-driven, we are in this same country where digital systems introduced, will fail routinely, and there will be glitches, and we'll be told that, oh, it was technology that failed. And that could create serious problems, because we're talking about people's money.
No,
so
honestly,
any guarantee that there will be no glitches?
No, there won't be any glitches. I can tell you.
You can't be too sure.
No,
during elections, it happens.
No. I can be too sure, because we are not starting today. Don't forget that we've been assistants and we've used technology thus far. It's just upgrade. Like I told you, that NRS is not branding, it's institutional upgrade. And we are doing upgrade. We have the best brain in the country working for us in in Nigeria Revenue Service. So we have the capacity. Even if there will be glitches, there are alternatives. We have a contingency plan, because we are administrator. And all those things we put into consideration.
Okay. Now, as I begin to wrap up now, going forward, what should Nigerians expect? Some Nigerians have said they are going to go onto the streets. NANS, Nigerian Association of Nigerian Students, the African Democratic Congress, ADC. Some people have said those controversial sections should be suspended and should not be implemented until there is greater clarity. Now, so what should Nigerians expect going forward? What do you recommend?
Like I said earlier, I will, on behalf of Nigeria Revenue Service, Mr. President, we appreciate Nigeria for their concern. We appreciate them for their awareness. We appreciate them for their contribution. But the only message I have for Nigeria is that people should not listen to rumors, innuendos. They should analyze the data as it affects them. So when you see the group of people, they say, oh, this is what we want to say. Have they read the law? Let them read the law, and how does the law affect them? And they should wait for the results, not mass or mob action. So when people say they want to suspend the law, so does that mean the whole law has been repealed? When you suspend this one, we should not collect revenue for 3 years. What will happen to Nigeria? Or what do they mean? And when they say suspend, people forget that we've subscribed ourselves to democracy, where there are rules of law. So no individual, except you are under emergency, can suspend a law. The law passed by National Assembly is law. If you have anything, it's either you have Finance Act, you have amendments that you can do, but nobody can suspend law. So when you see people, you need to go and see their motive. Right? And that is why I'm worried, and thank God, I always thank God for the kind of president we have, for his courage. Because when a political party or something say, oh, they want to come out and rally or do protest, to stop what? So, and that is the question. So we have the law in National Assembly for 6-7 months, so public hearing, we follow all those things so they don't bring any point. Now, implementation has started, people have started to begin to see the result, and they say, okay, they want to go on protest. Protest for what? And that is the question you should ask them. And then I'm using this time to call all the security agencies to be on alert, because you would definitely know that it can never be the poor that the reform is protecting, that they are the one they want to. These are the people on patriotic Nigeria that they just want to frustrate the benefits of this reform.
Okay, finally, do you agree with the view that the tax authority needs to do more in terms of informing the people, and that perhaps maybe this tax reform act should even be translated into local languages, simplified, so that the people will know what they are into?
I agree 100%, and that is why you see that what is the media team and all of it, including you and all Nigeria, must do, is to educate people, to let people know the import. Like I told you, The interest of Mr. President is to make sure Nigeria prosper. That's why you see, together we rise, together we prosper. That is Mr. President's aim, is for the prosperity of this nation. That is his idea. That is his moving force, motivation. One reason why we have to do this, consolidating all the fragmented law into one. Make it simplify it, make it a one-stop shop, that people don't, the compliance cost is lower, and the compliant taxpayer are not overburdened. That is why the reform is about taxing right, not taxing more. And that is
on that note, I would like to thank you very much, Dr. Zach Adedeji, Chairman of the Nigeria Revenue Service. Thank you very much for joining us on This Day Live, the Sunday talk show.